Farmers, trust is everything. At Genesis Fertilizers, we're not just proposing to build a facility, we're building a future designed for you. With real progress already underway, we're closer to providing Western Canadian farmers with a reliable, locally produced fertilizer supply. Now is the time to take control of your farm's future. Learn more at genesisfertilizers.com/credibility.
It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 at Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this Monday edition of the show. Thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147, of course, a big part of your workday. And shout out to everybody also listening on the RealAg Radio podcast. It is another busy week in front of us. And can you believe it? It is December, which means the countdown is on, of course, to not only Christmas, but the end of the year. It is hard to believe how fast this whole fall has gone. It's crazy. And this is kind of the last super busy week of work travel for a lot, like conference stuff. This week is obviously got Grow Canada going on. I'm going to be in London, Ontario at the Agrimart meeting on Tuesday, which I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. And then next week, I got one more thing. I got one more meeting to be in Las Vegas for the Milk Business Conference in Las Vegas at Caesars Palace as well, which I'm looking forward to doing. Going to be talking about dairy policy at the Milk Business Conference. So obviously trade. We got lots to talk about the Trump tariffs and things like that. And so I'll be giving some of the perspectives from the north side of the border at that meeting, and looking forward to being a panelist, hosted by Tyne Morgan of U.S. Farm Report. So I'm looking forward to catching up with Tyne in Las Vegas a week from now. Hope you had yourself a great weekend. Winter, burr, chilly. It is cold, but it is to be expected this time of the year indeed. Friday night had a great time at the Canada's Outstanding Young Farmers Banquet. So you heard Friday's show where we did it from the reception, and got to meet a couple of last year's winners, which was fantastic. And we interviewed them and the past president and Komi Hassini, who got one of the big awards at the event. It was a great time. So if you missed Friday's show, really a celebration of the youth in our industry. We always talk about the youth. What do we do to get more youth? Well, here's some great youth that are in the industry right now. So check out this past Friday's show. We also did a bonus episode of RealAg Radio where we did a RealAg Issues panel, myself, Kelvin Hepner, Tyler McCann, and Lindsay Smith. And we talked, of course, about all the stuff happening from a news perspective as well. So if you missed the bonus episode, you can find that in the RealAg Radio podcast feed, or, of course, you can check it out at RealAgRadio.com. Today on the show, we're going to dive into some agronomics. Pete Johnson is here, everybody. Round of applause. Pete hasn't been here for a few weeks. We just haven't been able to connect. More my fault than his. But we got Pete on the show. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Of course, the weather. We got to talk about tillage a little bit today. The plow versus the ripper. Who knew that was a big controversy? And people had chosen their sides. We've also got crop planning time. We're going to go through some cost cutting metrics that we have. We got lots to chat about today on the show. Looking forward to it. If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media platforms. You're also more than welcome to call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll bring in Pete Johnson, and we will get into an assortment of topics right after this.
At Vaderstad, we aim to be the world's leading partner for outstanding emergence. We're doing that through innovative tillage, planting, and seeding equipment that's optimized for your field conditions and soil types. We also offer industry-leading capacities to help you get the job done in shorter windows of time. It's all designed to give your crop the best start possible so you can maximize yields. Vaderstad, we look forward to growing together.
The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is your one-stop shop for everything a canola grower needs. Check out our free video series on YouTube for all the latest in canola agronomy, research, marketing, and more. Don't have time to watch? Download the podcast version of the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com or anywhere you download your podcasts. Stay on top of all things canola with the Canola School on RealAgriculture.com, brought to you by BASF and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
If you're involved in the agriculture industry, it's important to stay informed on all the latest issues affecting your business. At RealAgriculture.com, we offer fast, reliable news, information, and insights to help you keep on top of all of the latest in Canadian agriculture. Visit RealAgriculture.com and sign up for our free daily newsletter covering everything from news, agronomy, animal agriculture, and much more. Visit RealAgriculture.com/subscribe today.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on this Monday. Excite your crops with inputs from Excite Bio. Access nitrogen and phosphorus with Excite Bio's lineup of inoculants and ag biologicals since 2010. They've been helping farmers harness the power of the soil. Learn more by going to excitebio.ca. That's XITEBIO.ca. Excite doing a lot of business in both Canada and the United States on a growing number of acres. So check them out. That's excitebio.ca. Joining us right now, I usually say every Monday. I don't think Pete's been on for a month. Pete, it's great to chat with you.
Well, I've been here, Shaun, and you've just always had other people to talk to, so it's all good. But I am glad to be back, so thanks for having me on.
Did you miss me?
Well, I miss being on the show. Miss you is different than miss being on the show.
Okay, that is fair. That is very, very fair. Okay, and hey, we're going to see each other tomorrow. We're going to both be in London, Ontario, and we are going to be at the Agronomic meeting that's going on in London. I'm looking forward to seeing you present.
Yeah, and likewise.
You're lying. It's okay.
No, I'm not lying. I actually, Shaun, you and I have different expertise areas, right? Like I know you're a budding agronomist, but you tend to be more global and more like you look at everything. I'm more looking at the one tree of agronomy. And so I'm keen to hear what you have to tell the people in the room about all the different things that you talk about. And then you can actually learn something about agronomy, hopefully when I get up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to the latter part of that. We could have done like a cross, like when I got off the stage, you could have come up. We could have done like a crossover. That would have been pretty good.
We still can, Shaun. We can just do it. You know,
we can just do that. Yeah, exactly.
They might not like it, but by the way, I'm taking questions from the audience there. So I'm really hopeful there's some good questions so we can dig into some stuff that's really current and that they don't quite have a good concept on or a feeling on yet, right? And I know a few people in that audience, then they just like to engage. So don't be afraid to challenge them to engage when you're there. I don't know about you, Shaun, but when I get audience feedback, I am a happy camper. When I get questions, it's good. So engage.
Pete, honestly, I actually like it when I don't get through the slide. And I have this habit of having too many slides because in case people have questions, I want to be able to refer to something, right? So sometimes I skip over stuff and whatever. It's kind of the mood of the room and where people want to take it. I remember one time I was in Eastern Ontario and I was traveling with Mazex. It was Mazex. And we were in a Legion Hall. And I remember I got to like slide 3, and basically it was just lots of Q&A. And to be honest with you, that's like some of my favorite because then you're for sure addressing the issues that the farmers or the audience what they want to find out, as opposed to just what you want to talk about. It's actually super challenging. And then, as you know, you have to be willing once in a while to say like, good question, zero idea. I shall get back to you on that.
Yeah. Or talk to this guy or this girl, right? Like this person, because they might know, it's way above my pay grade. Have a nice day.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your message to the group at the Agronomic meeting? What are you going to be telling them?
Well, it depends on the question, Shaun. Seriously, it's sort of a blank slate. And so they did poll the group on questions. And so I think we have 11 or 12 questions that we can choose from, but we're going to start on question 1. And if the people in the room have different questions or want to take it a different way, I'm like you. I don't care if we get to those 12 questions, and they're all good questions around agronomy and just like, how to, they did ask about tar spot, but believe it or not, Albert Tenuta is speaking later in the day tomorrow. And so he'll be covering the tar spot stuff, but I don't know, it's about phosphorus. It's about genetics. It's about weed control. It's all of those different things that we're going to focus in on. And yeah, to everybody listening, if you are in the audience and you have a speaker that, like, some speakers don't like it, so you really have to be a little bit cognizant. But if you have a Shaun Haney at the front of the room, or you have a Peter Johnson at the front of the room, man, like Wheat Pete says, bring it on, baby. And if I only get to slide 3, that's the best presentation I've ever given. So yeah, engage.
I've never understood why some people don't like questions. To me, that's sort of like, there's like this lack of I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't want the engagement with the audience. I see that all the time in my travels, and I've seen a lot of speakers in my life, and you are very correct. There is a group of speakers who get paid a lot and do a really good job, but they really don't want that interaction on stage. And I've never really understood that. I think it's sometimes they don't want to be caught off guard, right? And then you don't know you don't have all the answers. It's okay to not have the answers.
Yeah, well, but I also think sometimes that they have a certain message and a certain amount of time to deliver that message. And if they take a question, it derails the message that they've been asked to deliver.
Yeah, you're more glass half full, and I'm a little bit more half empty, I think.
Shaun, I am always a glass half full kind of guy. You should know that by now. In fact, most of the time, my glass is 95% full.
Yeah. Well, if they're using one of those digital question things, are you growing within? Are you impressed by how much Shaun Haney's agronomic knowledge has increased over the years? That would be my question. I would ask you. And of course, you would say no.
I would say yes. No, I would. I would say yes, man. Like you're coming. Unfortunately, I'm not making much headway in the business world or the cattle world.
Well, anyway. Snow, winter. It is definitely, it's here. It's, Western Canada is pretty much blanketed in snow and winter conditions. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see behind me, it's white in the city of Lethbridge. I'm broadcasting from Lethbridge right now. Pete, even on central and eastern Canada as well, winter, it's kind of across the country, really.
Yeah, and we shouldn't complain, Shaun, because we had an incredibly warm November. Late planted wheat got way more developed than we ever expected, and winter sort of hit about November 27th or November 28th. And if you live in Eastern Canada, if you live in Canada, period, and winter doesn't start till December, well, maybe Vancouver is different, maybe BC is different, but for most of Canada, if winter doesn't start till December, it's going to be a shorter winter than it might have been, because lots of years winter starts by the 10th of November, by the 1st of November, and then winter can get pretty long. So yeah, it's Snowmageddon, by the way. Like you say, there's some snow in Western Canada, and you guys need the snow to recharge your moisture. So that's a good thing. But man, here in Ontario, you go into New York State, it's exactly the same thing. We are getting lake effect streamers, and you go from like here in Ingersoll, we have no snow to speak of. I mean, there's a little bit of snow, but the grass, you still see the grass through the snow. I don't think we've had, we might have had a centimeter maximum. And you don't have to go that far north. You just go to Stratford, and all of a sudden they've got a foot of snow. One of my actors, I'm on stage right now in a theatrical adventure, and one of the actors on Sunday said to me, I've blown my driveway 4 times already, and he lives in Stratford, and I'm going like, what are you talking about, man?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you go to Highway 11. There's been trucks parked on Highway 11. I don't know whether it's open yet or not. Like it's just been hammered because once the snow squall sets up, I don't know if you've experienced them or not, Shaun.
Well, I have. Yes, I have a story I'm going to retell here in a second.
Yeah, so,
I had a really ugly interaction my first time ever with
yeah.
with that.
So
kind
you go from sunshine to a wall of snow that you can't see your hand in front of your face hardly,
Oh.
and it's incredibly dangerous if you're driving because you're rolling along at what 80, 90, 100 kilometers an hour because you're in sunshine, and then it's like poof.
Yep.
What do you do?
Yep.
Right? So
Here it's very light snow, and if eventually here the wind's going to blow because it's going to it's supposed to warm up the back end of this week, which means probably wind is coming with that, which means like, some of our most worst conditions can actually be the wind after the snowfall, not during the snowfall. But I'll never forget, I was at the Southwest Ag Conference. This is going back to like 2010, 11, 12, early days of Real Ag, and I'd gone to SWAC for the first time. And Pete, I can be pretty cheap, okay? And at that time, I was frequently renting the cheapest rental car you could get, okay? Just because I'm being cheap, being frugal. And I had this little Hyundai Accent, I think it was. It was more of a go-kart. And this first week of January, okay? And I remember being at SWAC, and then I'm leaving, and I can't remember who I was talking to. It could have been you. It could have been like the Archie Wilson. It could have been, Steve Denis. I don't know who it was. And they said, "Hey, you're going back to Toronto?" I said, "Yeah, I got a flight." And they said, "You better get on the road. We're talking about, I got lots of time." And this person said, No, it's like front's moving in, and we're going to have a big snowfall." And I'm looking, I'm like, "You Easterners. You guys don't even know snow. What are you talking about? Being so silly, right?" It's like kind of a black, you can tell it's going to snow, but like how bad could it really be, Pete? It's warm out. Like you said, the sun's shining. Like this, I know snow. This, you don't know what you're talking about. And so I continued to talk and got on the 401. And I'm in it's a go-kart. I'm buzzing, and all of a sudden that snowfall hit. Pete, it was like there were soccer balls hitting the windshield. It was just, you could hear them poof, 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 poof. And I'm just driving, and I remember like a semi on each side of me, right? And you're just like, it's coming down so hard. And you don't know if you should pull over or just continue to forge ahead because the vehicle will be buried in about 5 minutes and you won't even be able to go anywhere. From that point forward, I am never getting the cheapest rental car again. I am getting something with it was one of those moments, and I will never forget. I will never diss lake effect snow, streamers, whatever. You said earlier during the commercial break, thunder snow. Is that what we're talking about here? Thunder snow? Or is that just a worse situation? What's a thunder snow?
Well, thunder snow is when you have lightning and thunder in the middle of a snowstorm. And it used to be pretty rare, but it seems to be happening more and more often. And so if you think of how violent a thunderstorm is and how much rain comes in a thunderstorm, well, now we have the similar thing with snowstorms because it's a thunderstorm and there's so much energy in the air, so much moisture in the air that the snow, it's sort of like Snowmageddon, just like in your little accent going down the 401 with the big snowballs hitting. It's sort it's sort of like that, man. And yeah, so I'm glad you understand that these lake effect flurries can be significant, because if you go back at just about the time you're talking about, we were doing a project, and Greg Stewart, great corn agronomist, Dave Hooker, great corn researcher, they said, drying corn costs so much. And if we go longer season corn hybrids, we get more yield. So let's say we do a project where we leave the corn out over winter. We grow super long maturity hybrids. We don't worry about the fact that there's still 30% on December the 1st. We leave them out until the next spring. The corn will be dry. We'll get big yields. Let's have a look at that. And they decided to do one of those plots, or I guess they didn't decide. Wheat Pete said, yeah, I'll do one on my farm. December the 5th, I combined all the other corn. It was over 200 bushel per acre. We left these plots out. December the 5th, we got 5 feet of snow. The snow goes over the cob. When the snow melts, the corn just goes straight down. It doesn't fall over. It's like the weight of the snow on the cob pulls it straight down. You can't pick that up. We took 202 bushel corn to 90 bushel corn the next spring, and that was the end of the project, man.
Yeah, we don't need a replicated trial. We're good. We are
5
good.
feet of snow on December the 5th. One day, that's the effect of lake effect flurries. So yeah, it can happen.
There you go. Hey, Pete, the next generation of Brandt Utroff augers is here. They can move up to 9,000 bushels per hour. 9,000.
Wow.
Even in the harshest of conditions. So maybe that big lake effect, the thunder, snow, whatever we're talking about here. Hey, visit your local Brandt dealer today or go to brandt.ca. You're listening to RealAg Radio. It's Agronomic Monday. We'll be right back. Shaun Haney and Peter Johnson right after this.
What's next doesn't happen by accident, doesn't happen by chance.
What's next happens when experience meets expertise, when data meets dollars, and when steel meets earth.
What's next happens when the promising work of Pioneer's state-of-the-art research centers meets the unsparing challenges of more than 17,000 on-farm trials.
Our ultimate goal is to bring the next seed breakthrough to your field.
Because Pioneer isn't just our name.
It's our mission. Pioneer.
What's next
Happens here.
Here's what Wheat Pete's word on RealAgriculture.com is all about in under 30 seconds.
It's wheat time. I love wheat time. I love wheat. Get that sulfur on. Get that seeding rate right. Get that nitrogen on your wheat right. Get that protein. Know your variety. Know when you need to put fungicides on. Pick your product. Pick your rate. Do the right job. Get this wheat crop right. Have a nice day. Grow amazing wheat.
I'm Lindsay Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomist, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomist with me, Lindsay Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Pete, this week, like we were talking about, I'm going to be at the Agromar meeting in London, Ontario. But Lindsay is super excited because Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, she's going to be at the Grow Canada conference. I'm very jealous, Pete. Very jealous.
Oh, so cool.
Exactly. With advancements in artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and precision agriculture, we are moving into a new era of innovation. Join agriculture industry leaders in Ottawa, December 3rd through the 5th. That's this week, everybody. To explore the future of agriculture and how Canada can capitalize on its opportunity to be a global agricultural leader, visit growcanadaconference.ca to register. The Tuesday night, tomorrow night, is one of my favorite receptions of the year. The Icebreaker of Grow Canada. It is quite the collection every year of the leaders when it comes to Canadian agricultural broadacre farming. It's always a super fun night. So I'm jealous I'm not going to be there this year, but best wishes to everybody involved. And make sure you say hi to Lindsay Smith of Real Agriculture, who will be on location at the event.
Oh,
Pete,
cool.
We talked about the weather, crop planting. It's that time of the year, buddy. You know what? It's, and I think there's some caution about 2025. I'm not kind of breaking news there for anybody, but this is where the planning really matters. You got to get it out and think about it, strategize, a quiet setting, maybe a cold one, some nice music, and work on your plan. Is that how you do it?
No, well, actually, Shaun, most of my clients, when I go and we've just started the crop planning process with the clients that I consult with, and we're actually thinking too hard to have a cold one at that point, right? Like you would want to get the crop plans done before you enjoyed a beverage.
Come on, Pete. I get smarter after about 3 beers.
In your own mind, maybe.
It's sort of like golf, right? And then there's like a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah. I don't buy the thing that you're smart. You're smart all the time, Shaun, but you're not smarter after 3. I'm sure of that. I'm just sure of that, man. It just doesn't work. Anyway, no, it is crop plan season, and it's a really important time of the year because particularly, I think, and maybe it's every year, but it just feels this year to me that there's more uncertainty around so many things. And so as you go through the crop planning process, there's lots of questions, right? I have clients saying to me, do we pull back on phosphorus? Phosphorus seems so expensive this year. And there's other clients saying, do we grow more soybeans because soybeans cost us less to grow? And there's lots of these questions around how do we manage the uncertainty and how do we manage the input side of our business and still keep ourselves open to make changes if we need to at the last minute. So it really is a bit of applying the technology. So that's the one thing I do notice. We're, more and more we're looking at the technology, and the technology is a huge win. I have more and more clients who are moving to variable rate fertilizer. They're looking at their soil tests in more zone management. They're looking at their yields and how many nutrients they've removed over the last 3 years, and they're trying to tie that better and maybe spend the same fertilizer dollars but do it smarter. So that's one aspect. But then they're also just trying to find the sweet spot. And, it was really interesting on the Agronomist last Monday night. I wasn't able to be there because I've been in a play. And so, today, December the 2nd, Pete is back, able to join the Agronomist because it's the first Monday night in like 3 months that I don't have a rehearsal. We're still doing the play, but last week was really interesting because they talked crop rotation, and everybody says, "Oh my gosh, Pete, like how many times can you talk crop rotation? Give it a rest." But they talked about sequencing. And so this is one of those things in crop planning that as you go through that thought process, Jason Volk had a really interesting comment. He said, sequencing matters so much because you can grow soybeans after canola and that sequence works. But if you grow canola after soybeans, you will get hammered. And so rotation is important, but it's not just rotation. It's also crop sequence. So crop plans, not only is it what are the best genetics, what's the right fertilizer, what are the new herbicides that I can utilize, what are the resistant weeds that are showing up that I have to be worried about, but it's also all this other background information. And then we can get into the tillage discussion as well. Like crop plans are incredibly important, and you always you do them. You got to have plan A, which you hope is what you're going to do, but you need a plan B and a plan C in the back of your brain as well.
You'd find it interesting maybe. I've just pulled up a slide. We asked Canadian farmers through RealAgri studies. We asked them about the percentage of farmers that are doing variable rate. And I'm looking at by age right now. It's about like between 36 and 43%. Okay, somewhere in that range. Does that make sense to you?
So, it does, Shaun, because until the last year or two, things were good in the crop world.
Yeah.
Right? We were making money. When you're making money, you don't worry about cutting corners. You don't worry about the fine tuning at the same level. And as much as I want everybody to make money, when you get into these just unsure times, when margins are thin, that's when you step back and say, how do I do better? And I think that's where the variable rate I think that'll move the bar forward on variable rate much more than just everything else, because they're going to say, well, if I can avoid putting that on in that spot because it's already excessive, then I'll take that and put it somewhere else where it needs it, and I'll do way better.
Well, here's an interesting piece for you. I presented to the Canadian Outstanding Young Farmers meeting on Friday morning, and it was fantastic. And so I was showcasing how the younger farmer, I was trying to help them define what are the attitudes and behaviors and characteristics of the under 35 farmer, besides just age. How do they think differently? How do they think the same? What are some of the things they're doing? So it was a lot of fun. And one of the things we looked at was agronomic practices, okay? And where age is a factor and where it's not a factor. So variable rate, whether you do it or you don't, according to our numbers, age is not a factor. Okay, younger, like if you're younger, it doesn't mean it's a tech kind of thing and it's kind of cool. Really no difference than people that are 65 years old. Okay, I thought that was interesting. Also, though, whether or not you soil sample is really dictated by age. Yet,
come on, man! Like,
not kidding.
Well,
okay.
How do you do variable rate if you don't soil sample? Like that, come on, that just doesn't make sense.
I'm just telling you. So frequency of soil sampling. How often do you have your field soil sampled and tested? So the frequency is very much impacted by your age. Younger people are soil sampling much more.
Wow. So, and I'm glad they are, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you the numbers. So under 35, 54% every year. 65 and over, 33%. That's a pretty significant difference.
That's a very significant difference.
I don't have my field soil sampled and tested at all, ever. Under 35, 1%. 55 and over was 8%.
So the 8% of the 55 and over guys, like I'm in that category, Shaun. I hate to admit it. Like I'm an old guy. What's the matter with you people? Like get out there and do the soil sample.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh, it's fascinating actually. And I guess I'm glad that you say us old guys are still utilizing the technology as much as the young people from a variable rate standpoint.
Yep.
But then I'm backing up and saying, so how are you doing that? Like the two go hand in hand. You have to have the soil sample as well as the yield map and look at removal and look at where the soil needs to be built, and you marry those two together to come up with the variable rate prescription. How do you do it any other way? Oh, that's incredibly fascinating.
Maybe you're just going off yield and topography. I don't know. It's very cool. Or maybe there could be some slippage there where the variable rate company's taking, it's a part of a bundle, and maybe you don't know that the soil sample. I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just telling you this is what we found. So it was one of the neat things about. Here's the other one. You want another one while we're talking about this?
100%.
Okay. Here's another one I presented to COIF. We asked which of the following best describes the role that a crop advisor plays in helping you develop your fertilizer plan. Okay. Younger farmers, under 35, and the oldest farmers, 65 and over, most likely to work with an ag retail advisor as the sole advisor. Okay. So very close, 49 and 50%. It's the middle-aged farmer, 35 through 55, who actually work with an ag retail and an independent consultant. 36% of them.
Wow. So, I got to get my brain around that, Shaun, because I am an independent consultant on some level, and
you are.
And so I wonder if the younger people feel like they can do it themselves, or they're educated enough, or like I don't understand that. I think when you get to be an old guy like me, maybe you just have always worked with that retail outlet, and you have faith in that retail outlet, and you like I'm not one of them, but I have worked with some older farmers who kind of say, oh, Pete, I'm only going to do this for another 5 or 10 years, whatever that number is. So, I'm not worried about it. We just, it's not as much of a priority. Whereas I'm going like, come on, man, you always want to do the best you can. I don't care if you're 25, 55, or 85.
Yeah.
Wheat Pete is going to do the best darn job he can, full stop, bar none. But not everybody is of that mindset. I'm glad the middle-aged people are working with an independent consultant because, anytime you can get more advice, it's a good thing. I do struggle a little bit why the younger people are not. And that, I don't know why, but that is really...
So under 35, only 13% of them are working with an independent consultant as the sole advice giver. Whereas that's compared to 49% that are working with both independent and an ag retail. Or sorry, no, just with an ag retail.
Right.
You talked about the people doing it themselves. It's consistent across the age groups. So 16 to 18% across all age groups are doing it on their own.
So okay, I'm baffled.
You know what? I love when I leave Wheat Pete speechless. Everybody, this you know what? Today is a good day. How about that? Okay, what are you stumped about? What? Because I'm curious. This is I kind of find it fascinating. I don't have a why for anybody, but I do find it fascinating how age is a difference here.
Yeah, well, I guess I don't understand if you're not doing it yourself. The younger age group, like how are they deciding to make those decisions? And typically, they're
working with an ag retail. So to me, it bumps over a little bit of an assumption that people make that, the younger farmer they're not loyal, right? Like they move the business around and, it was, I remember working with his dad and he was loyal to us, right? He always did business with us. And the kid, he's just got different ideas, right? To me, this sort of shows like there's an opportunity for ag retails here. To really have a loyal customer for people under the age of 35. I think it kind of blows away one of the assumptions that people make.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And my only other comment would be that man, I think there's what you're telling me is there's a massive opportunity for independent crop consultants.
Yes.
Because there's a whack of people not using them. And I don't know, I think we provide a valuable service, but full disclosure, I am one, so I have a little bit of a biased opinion.
Well, look at it. So if you add up, both and independent, you go myself, both, and independents, because that's everybody that's, that takes out that ag retail. You look at the younger people, we're looking at 39. Yeah, there's 50% 50% of people aren't using that independent consult. There's a big market there. I think there's an opportunity. That's it. Need to go through this. Pete, there's still a little bit more I want to talk to you about. Can you hang on for one more segment?
Yeah, I can hang around. It's been a month since I've been here, Shaun, so I can hang on for another segment.
Okay, that is I really do appreciate that. Hey, we're talking about events. Crossroads. That's the Alberta Crop Conference is back January 28th and 29th in Edmonton. Crossroads is designed to empower attendees with cutting-edge insights, technological advancements, and sustainable practices crucial for modern farming. Future-proof your farm with early bird tickets available until December 31st. You got a month to do that. You can go to Crossroads Crop Conference. A lot of C's there. CrossroadsCropConference.ca. Shaun Haney, Peter E. P. Johnson will be back right after this. I get to spend every day talking to farmers in the ag industry through RealAgriculture.com and RealAg Radio. But nothing is more fun than speaking to an audience live and in person. If you're planning an ag event, book a Real Agriculture speaker to make it a successful and memorable experience. Email shaney@realagriculture.com and you can book myself or any other Real Ag personality to speak at your event. Bring your audience all the fun, insight, and energy of Real Agriculture.
There's a reason we call it the Corn School. Videos on everything from planter setup to weed control, field trial results, and the latest yield strategies. The Corn School on RealAgriculture.com has the information and advice you need to help you succeed. Brought to you by Pride Seeds and BASF. Corn School episodes are available at cornschool.com, from RealAgriculture.com, or as a podcast in your favorite podcast app. Check out the latest Corn School episode today.
Listen up, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and northern Minnesota growers. Listen what I'm about to tell you here. The New Seed Omega-3 canola production system. It can help you unlock a guaranteed path to market with attractive premium opportunities, first-in-class agronomy, and free on-farm pickup after harvest. To learn more, you can go to omega3canola.com. That's, again, for our listeners in Montana, North and South Dakota, and northern Minnesota. New Seed Omega-3 canola production system, omega3canola.com. Shaun Haney, Peter Repeat Johnson here. Hey, Pete, what we were talking about crop planning. We got kind of distracted. That's on me. One of the things that I've been talking to audiences about is because of the tight margins, cost cutting is going to happen. But from an agronomic perspective, we need to make sure that there's lots of sayings that go here. I use one of my dad's, which is, save a nickel to spend a dollar. We got to be careful here that we don't hurt ourselves because we were too focused on maybe the cost and not enough on the benefit or the upside that's attached to that cost, if you know what I'm talking about. There's some tough decisions here right now.
Yeah, absolutely, Shaun. And so I think people have to kind of go through those thought processes. And one of the things they just don't want to take the foot off the gas on is weed control, right? I think it's so important. And it's because if you kind of say, well, that I'll get 85% control out of that product and it costs me $10 an acre. And to that product that gives me 98% control is going to cost me $30 an acre. Well, the problem with that is that 10% of weeds you don't kill go to seed. And when they go to seed, now you fight that weed long-term into the future. So whenever we get into this discussion, and we've had it before other years, it isn't brand new. I really think you, as a grower, you have to step back and say, where does it make sense for me to cut back? And on some things, it absolutely does. When you look at your phosphorus and your potash applications, you can target them better. You can not apply as much this year as long as you make it up in the future. Right? This is all part of this bank account kind of philosophy. You can do a better job of placement. But when it comes to things like genetics, man, I don't know, Shaun, you and I talked a bit through the break about cheaper seed and buying cheaper seed. Full stop. I am not there, baby. Because if that cheaper seed is poor genetics, you can give up 40 bushels per acre on corn or 20 bushels per acre on wheat. And so sometimes, as your dad would say, you save a nickel to spend a dollar. That just doesn't work for me, man. You know
what's funny is I've used this saying a couple times in the last couple of weeks. My dad says I never say that. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that's where I got it from. No, I don't think it was me. Like, okay, it was my other dad. Like, what? Like, come on. You say it all the time. Okay, so here's what's interesting. Okay, so instead of talking in aggregate, well, here's what I can tell you in aggregate. And I wrote a story about this on RealAgriculture.com, where farmers are intending to save money this coming year. They are not doing that with purchasing lower price seed. They are not doing that by reducing fertilizer use. And there is some that are saying they're going to, but I'm talking compared to some other of the options, okay? They're less likely to cut chemical rates. Weed control, that's a good one, because if we're cutting chemical rates, we're just bringing on weed resistance. So that was a positive. Where they are is looking at using more generic products, maybe being a little bit more cautious on some additional products like foliars, or maybe it's like a certain seed treatment, or like just like other stuff like that. Well, of course they're going to spend less on equipment. And that's not agronomic, but that was actually the largest one, reducing spending on equipment. And the Association of Equipment Manufacturers numbers show that farmers are well into that process already. So we got to be careful. So let's look at by region for a second. Okay. And this does not surprise me, but Western Canadian farmers more likely to reduce spending on seed than Eastern Canadian farmers. And I think that kind of does make sense, a little bit more common seed use in Western Canada. I think when I'm going to purchase lower price seed, probably I'm going to use my own. There'd be some farmers in that camp to a certain extent. And the corn market, like, you got to be careful though. Whenever canola is kind of in this, when you're thinking about those crop types, traits are really important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just genetics, period.
Okay.
If you look at the corn trials, the provincial Ontario Corn Committee trials, like there is, I don't know, a 40 bushel yield difference from the best to the poorest hybrid. And so 40 bushels is per acre, right? That's like $200 an acre in revenue, and a bag of seed does 2.5 acres. So that's $500. Man, and even the most expensive corn seed isn't $500 a bag. And so you're going to save $10 a bag just because it's $10 cheaper and maybe leave 20, 30, 40 bushels of yield on the table. And I think that's why the Eastern producers just say, we aren't going to do that. And so, I mean, you talk about Western Canada on the seed front. Well, okay, so you're going to use your own seed. Well, first off, your own seed probably isn't the newest genetics. And so there are still some good varieties probably in your bin that you can grow. But if you want new genetics, then you have to support the development of those new genetics. And if you're going to keep your own seed, at least in Eastern Canada, where we have wet falls, wet at harvest, did you treat yourself like a seed producer, or did you just keep the last wagon load you took off the field? Because if you treat yourself like a seed producer, you're saving the first seed that you harvest because it hasn't been weathered and it's going to have really great seedling vigor. If you save the last wagon load that you took off, man, it's got 10 rains on it. Its seedling vigor has dropped. Like, it just isn't going to be as good. And I expect that's true in Western Canada as well. If you're just going to the bin and going to any bin.
Well, get it tested. Like, I think the message here is that's fine to do that. Just get it tested. Make sure you know what you're putting in the ground.
Absolutely. Get it tested. There's no question about that. But even like with the test, you typically do germination. You don't do vigor. And vigor does matter. So it's one of those other things to look at. Yep.
Yeah. Good, very good point on that. And be careful with generics on the crop protection. Now, I'm not slandering all generics, but there's some good generics that are out there. Just make sure you're making the right decision on those generic purchases.
So generics, Shaun, the challenge with generics is, let's look at glyphosate, right? So glyphosate is the kind of the quintessential example.
Okay.
So I buy a 540 glyphosate. Well, it's 540 grams per liter of glyphosate in every jug. I don't care if it's Roundup or it's whatever, right? Whatever generic you happen to purchase. But the adjuvants in that jug are different. And so it's really interesting to me, in all of Peter Sikkema's work, if he uses 0.67 liters per acre of Roundup, which is the original, and like they've spent the most time on the adjuvants in the jug, he gets great control. We go to the field with a generic, and we almost always have to go to a liter to get that same level of control. And we just do. The generic's cheaper. We're going to use a liter anyway. We just do that. But man, if you go to 0.67 of the generic, even though it's 540 grams per liter, it doesn't mean you get the same level of uptake. If you don't get the same level of uptake, you don't get the same level of control. And that adjuvant, that what else is in the jug actually matters. And by the way, there are, as you said, there are good generics out there. There's no question about that. But there's more to the herbicide than just the active ingredient. And my one last comment about it is, don't forget that if you want new products, a lot of generic companies, they do a great job on what they do, but some of them don't develop new products. And so it's just like buying certified seed. You want a new variety, you have to buy certified seed. You want a new corn hybrid? Why do we get so many new corn hybrids? Because everybody has to buy new seed every year on every acre. It gives them return. Similarly, we want new products. Something's got to pay for that development.
Well, I'm going to ask you about tillage here in a second before we wrap up, but I do want to mention that one of the other differences between Western and Eastern Canada, a slight difference, Eastern Canadian farmers more likely to restructure their debt, sell land, or renegotiate rental rates, or let the rented land go, which I thought was interesting.
Wow. Well, okay. So let's be honest, Shaun, at least in Ontario, and I think across much of Eastern Ontario, or Eastern Canada, sorry, land prices have just gotten to be ridiculous. When it's $50,000 an acre, restructure debt. I don't know, when you're paying $800 an acre for land rent, because there is some that high out there, not a lot, but even if you're paying $500 an acre for land rent and you get 200 bushel corn, well, 200 bushel corn at $5 an acre is $1,000 an acre gross. If you are paying $500 an acre land rent,
right?
That's and don't even talk about growing winter wheat, the crop of all crops. Yeah, you grow winter wheat at 100 bushels per acre and get $6 a bushel, and you're paying $500 an acre land rent. Yep. That doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that doesn't work, Shaun.
Here's another saying: that dog don't hunt, Pete. That dog don't
exactly. Hunt. That dog will not hunt. No.
Hey, before I let you go, we got to get to this tillage. Okay, so on the word. Wheat Pete's Word, new episode drops every single Wednesday. Last week's episode, you talked about the plow versus the ripper. And you got almost like Ohio State versus Michigan, or Alabama versus Auburn, or Arizona versus Arizona State. There's some pretty firm opinions in either direction.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And for the people who are not football fans, Shaun, it's sort of like the Montreal Canadiens against the Toronto Maple Leafs, man.
Fair enough, my friend. What's the fight about? Like they're both tillage. Like Team Tillage is not a cohesive group, is what I'm hearing from you.
So I got asked that question. And by the way, if people have questions, please leave them for me on the word. I love the questions, just like in a presentation. But at the end of the day, the question was plow versus disc ripper. Out of those two, Pete, which one's the best? And so I talked about that with only those two, and immediately everybody says, wow, Wheat Pete, Peter no-till, Peter don't do tillage, is now promoting the moldboard plow. Yeehaw!
I don't know what's going on. I wondered the same thing as I was listening to it. So
yeah, it's just, oh gosh. And so Warren Schneckenberger, love Warren. He says, Pete, next thing you'll be talking about continuous corn and the virtues of continuous corn. And Shaun, I said, you know what, Warren, if you ask me the question, which is better, continuous soybeans or continuous corn, I will talk about the virtues of continuous corn, because continuous soybeans are horrible. It doesn't make either one right.
Right.
But the one thing I will say, Shaun, because I know we're getting tight on time, when it comes to tillage, and I will talk more about it on this week's episode of The Word, just because of the feedback that I've gotten, people say, oh, I like the moldboard plow, or I like the disc gripper, or I like the high-speed disc, but they don't actually say or understand what that piece of tillage equipment is really doing. So the moldboard plow does one thing, and it doesn't do tillage erosion, but it does do wind and water erosion. Meanwhile, the disc ripper is a horrible thing for tillage erosion, but it protects against wind and water erosion. So what are your risks? What are you looking for it to do? And that's true with every tillage equipment, piece of equipment, not just the disc ripper and the moldboard plow.
Great stuff. Hey, Pete, with advancements in wrong read. Manage weeds early in your canola, cereals, and pulses with Conquer Goldwing, Thunderhawk, and Blackhawk EVO, powered by Duplasm technology, advancing the unstoppable superpower of pre-seed burn down with New Farm. Find out more by going to newfarm.ca. I love those product names: Conquer, Goldwing, Thunderhawk, Blackhawk EVO. You just know they're going to do the job when you got aggressive names like that. Pete, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. All the best, and thanks a lot, bud.
Yeah, I am as well, Shaun. Thanks for the opportunity. We'll talk to you again soon, man.
Absolutely. We'll be right back on Real Ag Radio, Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM, right after this. If you're serious about agriculture, Real Ag's got you covered.
For over 10 years, we've listened to and shared what producers have to say about everything from policy to agronomy from coast to coast.
Keep up with the latest in Canadian agriculture at RealAgriculture.com through daily newsletters and check out our YouTube channel.
Thanks for joining us in the Real Ag community as we continue to cover and serve North American agriculture.
Infuse some energy into your next corporate event, customer meeting, or conference with RealAg Radio, Canada's national agriculture radio show. Create a unique experience at your next event with host Shaun Haney, broadcasting RealAg Radio live on Sirius XM, featuring exciting guests, captivating interviews, and the latest news from the agriculture community. Contact advertising at realagriculture.com or call 587-787-1795 to book your on location with RealAg Radio today.
Delivering reliable agricultural lab testing for your crops, soil, feed, water, and seed. SGS Canada is uniquely positioned, ready to elevate your business in Canada and the United States. Call them now at 1-800-952-5407. That's 1-800-952-5407. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Pete today. That was a lot of fun. It was great to get caught up, and you never know where those conversations are going to go. And make sure you check out Wee Pete's Word. Every Wednesday, new episode drops. He answers your agronomic questions and does a fantastic job. That audience continues to grow across Canada and the United States, and it's great to have Pete a part of the Real Ag team. We got a big, well, we don't have a lot of time here, but we got a big showdown on Saturday. My favorite football team is the Arizona State Sun Devils, and they're playing in the Big 12 championship versus the Iowa State Cyclones. I know lots of you listening in the United States are, we got a lot of Cyclone fans, I am sure. I think Chip Flory, the host of AgriTalk, and I are going to have a bit of some side bets going on here. So, if you are going to the game, send me some pictures. I'm super jealous if you're going to be checking out the Big 12 championship in Dallas on Saturday, but send me some pictures. And, Sun Devils are going to win. I know it. I'm very, very confident. Confident. We'll see. It's going to be a tight game. I'm not going to lie to you. If you have any feedback on today's program, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call the Real Ag feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in today. Lindsay Smith will be here tomorrow. I'll be back on Wednesday and through the rest of the week, and looking forward to it. Thanks so much for getting real and getting connected with Real Ag Radio. Cheers, everybody.